Present via Skype.
Mr. Jeff Elshoff.
Here.
Mr. Jeff Hawes.
Here.
Ms. Betty Martine.
Here.
Mr. Justin Smith.
Here.
We have a quorum. Thank you, Madam Clerk. I'd like to begin tonight's meeting like we do all of our meetings, and this is something that's open to all members of clergy living in Bel Aire, and would like to invite up Pastor Joe Schroeder, who's going to open tonight's meeting for us with a prayer. And welcome, sir.
Dear Lord, we just thank you for your many blessings. We thank you for the blessing of living in the United States and Kansas and Bel Aire. We just thank you for all that you've given us and the opportunity to take part in government. So many nations around the world have no choice. And we just thank you, Lord, that we do have that opportunity. We just pray that each one of us would do our part, that we would be active. Lord, we just pray for this meeting. We just pray that it would be productive, that heads would be clear. And we pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. Thank you, sir. Now please rise and join us in the saying of the Pledge of Allegiance to the American flag.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, I want to welcome everybody to your regularly scheduled meeting of your Bel Aire City Council. Tonight we are going to talk about a couple of employment agreements. Pay scale, we have bids for a mower and for a slurry seal too, and also for some street repairs. So also going to ask that we send something to the Planning Commission that we've workshopped for quite a while on that. So all of that is on tonight's agenda, and do want to publicly let everybody know, I have informed the council members up here that would like a 20 to 30 minute executive session at the conclusion of our regular business today.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
Under determined agenda additions, I'd like to add July 5th for tonight.
Discussion about July, that's a
Friday,
okay.
after July 4th.
Yeah, because we're not. Is that an official motion?
Yes,
To
please.
add that to the agenda to discuss July 5th, the operating hours of City Hall, I'm assuming?
Yes.
Okay, is there a second to add that? Okay, we have a first and second by Councilmember Martine and Councilmember Hawes, seconding to add discussion about July 5th operating hours to the end of the agenda. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Move into the consent agenda then. And the first thing to come before council this evening is the minutes from our June 4th, 2019 City Council meeting.
Mr. Mayor, I motion to approve the consent agenda as listed and authorize the mayor to sign.
I'll second.
First and a second. Questions or comments?
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I have some things that on page 4 and page 5 of the minutes. Let's see. Motions under C. I think it was, C. The motion was made by Councilmember Hawes, and this states that it was seconded by Councilmember Hawes. We need to get that corrected as who seconded that.
Good.
I don't think he can make the same motion and second it himself.
All right, I'm going to ask that the city clerk review our taping of that meeting and get that corrected. But so, Madam Attorney, noticing that we obviously have a clerical error on the minutes, can we go ahead and approve as with the suggested amendment? How do we proceed there?
You can approve with authorizing the city clerk to amend and to correct the person who seconded the motion based on a review of the recorded minutes.
Okay.
So that would just give her the authority to amend it to whatever she hears on the audio recording. If
Well,
you'd
I'm
like to
sure
do
it's
that.
just an honest error.
Right.
It's still, if somebody looked it back up in the minutes
It would,
years from now, they'd say, huh.
right.
So Councilmember
Also-
Elsoff, would you like to amend?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I motion to amend my previous motion to approve with the amended correction for the person who seconded that agenda item. What was that? In the executive session.
Wait a minute, you're on the wrong one. You're doing C. He has to do C.
Oh, is there?
I think we
There's
actually
two
have
of
Two
them,
of them.
yes.
Yeah.
Oh, there's two of
The
them.
same thing in each person, each session.
Yeah.
Okay, with the amendment to item C.
Yeah, what were the two? Can you tell us which were the two? Councilmember Martin, I'm sorry.
The motion under item C.
Take a drink. Take a drink. You're okay.
And the motion under executive session on page 5.
Okay, so C in executive session. Councilmember Elsoff, is that you wish to amend to include those?
Right.
Okay. Councilmember Benaj, are you okay seconding that?
I will second that motion.
Okay. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Martin. Next, is discussion and approval of appropriations ordinance 2019-12. This is $471,040.96. Payments include $71,000 for street repairs. We also have a $60,000 bond interest and $18,000 for the engineering on the Woodlawn project. So that's a little explanation as to why it's a little bit higher this time than normal.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the appropriation of ordinance 19-12.
Second.
First and second, any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. City requested appearances, I have none. Is there anyone in council chambers wishing to address council this evening on an agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move on to reports. We'll start with Councilmember Hawes.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have no report this evening.
Councilmember Benaj.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I did attend the WAMPO meeting on June the 11th. They are now projecting a year-end balance surplus of $765,000, subject to more changes, but they anticipate that it might go up if it moves at all. They are now putting out calls for projects this month to be added to the Move 2040 vision. These will be considered in the fall by a team of members. Ann Stevens, our own engineer, is on this team. So the decisions will be made in June of 2020. This is an every 2-year process of review. And I did provide a list to City Manager Ty Lasher of potential projects we might want to consider making proposals. So we have some time to do that, but I think it would be good for us to take a look at that. That's all I have to report, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Appreciate it, sir. Councilmember Martin.
No report.
Councilmember Smith.
I have no report.
Councilmember Elsoff.
I have no report.
I too have no formal report this evening. So with that, we'll move on to City Attorney.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just wanted to make council aware of some discussions going on in the courts. The Court of Appeals is addressing the proprietary and the governmental functions that councils do in a very interesting way. In the case of Jayhawk Racing versus the City of Topeka, Jayhawk Racing was a racetrack that the City of Topeka entered into a memo of understanding to purchase. There were star bonds involved. There was a timeline, and initially the city signed the MOU with the owners of the property. After a while, council turned over, so they had a whole new council, and the new council, through discussion, decided they didn't want to pursue those star bonds anymore. Well, there were some more detailed facts involved, but the courts, there was a lawsuit, obviously. The courts decided to discuss in a way that I thought would be helpful for the public and for council to keep in mind the fact that councils do have multiple functions given to the governing body by law. One of those functions, governmental, that's where your government provides services that only a government entity can provide, such as permits, providing roads, etc. The government also participates in proprietary functions, and those are functions that private entities could perform as well. And those are those include the powers to purchase what is needed for public improvements, contracts, or to acquire land. When cities act in this capacity, those actions are treated as typical contracts. So this court decided that specifically with memos of understandings, when cities enter such contracts, those contracts can transfer from one council to another. There's a prevailing assumption that one council cannot bind a future council. Currently, the courts are looking at, well, maybe under those functions, that binding can happen. So it is a Court of Appeals decision. It's something that councils need to be aware of as we enter agreements on property all the time. But it's very likely that this discussion will go to the Supreme Court, and hopefully we'll have a more clear guidance on how the courts see your proprietary function. It is positive because, well, people who see it as positive argue that, it makes the city a more attractive business partner, because private industries can be comfortable entering contracts with the city knowing that there's a more reliable backing, that it's not going to be the situation where a council turns over and then the agreement is void. Whereas people who support the traditional way say that, councils have to take care of cities and the will of their citizens, and as that will changes, they must be able to change their agreements. So it's a very interesting topic. We'll keep you posted on it. For now, those agreements seem to be binding from one council to another. And that's all that I have.
Do appreciate that update. City Manager?
Thank you, Mayor. Well, as Independence Day is quickly approaching, and I know that a lot of citizens enjoy fireworks, and there's some that don't like fireworks, and people in the middle, but it is around the corner, and wanted to let the community know that there is a city code that is specifically addresses fireworks, and so fireworks can be sold in Bel Aire between the hours of 8 a.m. to 10 p.m. from June 27th through July 4th. So June 27th is coming up quickly, and of course that's before our next council meeting. So those are the sale times in Bel Aire. I'm not sure what they are in Wichita or other communities, but they may have different sale times. So people may be able to go purchase fireworks even before the 27th. Now, in Bel Aire, you can only detonate the fireworks on July 4th. And it's beginning at 9 a.m. through 11 p.m. because the 4th is a Thursday. If it were on a Friday or Saturday, it could go till midnight. So just wanted citizens to be aware that there are rules, and there may be people shooting them off. If there's an issue, they can certainly call the Bel Aire Police Department, or I'm sure the Sedgwick County Dispatch will set up a separate line that people can call. And obviously we'll have officers out. And then also just keep in mind that the code also requires that the front yard of the residence or any right-of-way, streets, whatever, that the debris be cleaned up before 10 p.m. of July 5th. So, and we'll be getting more information out to remind folks through social media and such. Thank you.
Appreciate it. And is it this weekend that the community yard sales also? This weekend?
Yes, I believe it is this weekend.
Thought about that.
Starts Thursday.
Starts Thursday.
Everybody clear out their garages. All right, any questions for our city attorney or city manager? All right, here and now, we're going to move into ordinances, resolutions, and final actions. And the first thing to come before us, items A and B, are approving the revised employment agreements with our city attorney and with our city manager. This is something I had the pleasure of spending, 3 months or so, worked with some of the council members first, and then we did talk about it as well. We also had an executive and went over some of these agreements with that. It had been a number of years since we had changed and updated the agreement. We were working on an antiquated agreement, so glad that we could bring new ones up. And then, of course, if the market changes and we want to look at our manager's employment agreement, to ensure that we're staying competitive, and that's something that we talked about with our budget as well. So the governing body and manager have made proposed revisions to his employment agreement. That is now before you and on the agenda for final consideration this evening.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the revised employment agreement with the city manager, Lasher, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
We have a first in 3 seconds. Okay. I'm writing them all down. All right. Any questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And do you want to let the city manager know how much we appreciate all that you do in this region, especially here? We're a very unique city with our setup, and I don't know of any other city manager that does all the extras that you do, in addition to being a city manager of the smallest staff in this region for a city this size as well. So appreciate that. And these are retroactive to May 1, just so the public knows, so we stay current with that. The second thing to come before us is the same thing with our city attorney. We hired our full-time city attorney a couple of years ago, and that was something that the city had never done before, and it actually was a cost savings to us to have Jackie full-time with us. But that same thing, the agreement was quite old with that. So, and obviously her responsibilities are very different, but these have been reviewed by everybody, and her agreement is before council this evening.
Mr. Mayor?
Mr. Mayor, I'll make a motion to approve the revised employment agreement with City Attorney Kelly and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
All right, we do have a first and a
Hop in there,
second.
Jeff.
Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right. Item C is replacement of a land pride mower for public works. Due to the challenges of mowing our ditches where people like to throw things and garbage seems to collect, staff has determined that a land pride mower is the best piece of equipment for such task as that. We did receive 3 bids, with Schmidt & Sons was the lowest. You can see those before here. I know we've talked about this before. Our city engineer, Ann Stevens, is here if you want to say anything else about this, or if anybody has any questions for her.
The Land Pride is a pretty key piece of equipment. It's something that we use nearly every day. Last year, when the Land Pride was down and we had to hire out mowing, it was extremely expensive. We found one company that could do it. And they had a brush hog. They don't have the Land Pride, which is more of a finish mower for large open areas. So I really encourage council to approve this. We were planning on replacing one of our Exmark mowers, the small zero-turn mowers, but it was holding up really well until we turned in the request for the Land Pride, and then as things go,
Murphy's Law.
But we're getting that repaired, and we still feel that we should be okay replacing that next year.
Okay.
And if I have to come and eat crow, I will come and eat crow.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
One question I had on the Schmidt & Sons quote, it says that's in Mount Hope. Is that a delivered price, or will it be extra to have that mower delivered to us?
No, it's. I believe it is a delivered price.
Okay. I saw on some of the quotes it said delivered price, and I didn't see it on that one, and so I just wanted to make sure we weren't going to make a decision based on price, and then it ended up actually not being an accurate price because of transportation costs.
And I did ask Dave and Tim, who researched this, and they were very comfortable that the one coming from Schmidt and Sons was the exact same piece of equipment, and that we were getting the exact same warranties, et cetera, from Schmidt and Sons.
What is the warranty on this?
I believe it's a 2-year warranty. It's a standard warranty for these pieces of equipment.
And I'll tell you, Stevens, I always get nervous when we get bids and several $1,000s separate bids. I'm really glad to see 3 bids relatively close. That tells me that we get that. So, all right.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes.
I'll make a motion to accept the mower bid from Schmidt and Sons at a cost of $13,475.58 and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and 2 seconds. Questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
I gave that one to you, Jeff. All right, item D, moving right along here, is accepting a bid for slurry sealing. This is over in Bel Aire Heights and Park Vista. South Central Sealing was the only bid that returned a bid to us for that, which is always a little disconcerting, but it is what it is. I know that council and our city engineer, we agreed, we talked about this at some workshops, that slurry sealing of streets in Bel Aire Heights and Park Vista were good projects for some of the street fund in 2019. We continue to increase funding for street repairs. This type of application helps protect and add to the life of our asphalt roads. So Mrs. Stevens is still here if you want to say any more, or if there's any questions for her this evening.
We had, in that workshop months ago, we had discussed slurry seal. We had specifically discussed slurry sealing of the Bel Aire Heights neighborhood. We did not specifically discuss the slurry sealing of the Park Vista neighborhood. We were talking about instead doing a $50,000 approximately replacement of a portion of 47th Street. After going out and looking at that street again, it needs much more than $50,000. So I held off on that and chose to ask South Central to give us the cost to slurry seal Park Vista, which city staff has gone through, and they're almost complete with the crack sealing and thermal crack repair. So that neighborhood is almost ready. It will be ready by the time South Central is available to slurry seal. I would like to kind of bump off staff's efforts and get that slurry sealed while we have the time and the money to get that done, and just continue making our streets better.
Do we have any insight as to why we would only receive 1 bid on this?
We asked for a bid from Inland Paving, but we did not receive any correspondence from them. Those are the 2 companies that we are aware that do slurry sealing.
Okay.
Anybody else have any questions for our city engineer?
Can you
Questions on the
comment,
project?
just because we did only get that 1 bid, can you comment on the cost that we're receiving and how that's compared to prior slurry seal bids that you've seen? Is it in the market?
The cost seems fairly reasonable to me, given I have not seen bids from slurry sealing, but the kind of the general per square yard cost is in the range that you would expect to see as the price that you use for kind of guesstimating the cost. We have used South Central Paving in the past. They're the ones that we have gone to do all of the slurry sealing 10, 15 years ago in the city, and we've always been happy with their service.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to accept the bid from South Central Sealing at a cost of $179,414.04 for slurry sealing of streets in Park Vista and Bel Aire Heights, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Moving along, and this is exciting that you and I talked, it wasn't that long ago, we never could have had these conversations, and here we are where we can do these street improvements that we easily have in the budget. Next are 3 roads that we talked about at length at our last workshop as well. Rock Road at Central Park Avenue and Rock Road at 45th Street. Those aren't speed bumps. And then 53rd Street from Oliver to Woodlawn. There's $3,200 that separates a rock base versus a concrete base for the 3. And you know, my questions, I was wondering, could you first of all speak about those 2 options, and you know, is it, you know, $3,200 when you're talking the scheme of things isn't a ton of money? Is concrete that much better?
So everybody's fairly familiar with 53rd Street between Oliver and Woodlawn. It's been a thorn in our side ever since I've been here in Bel Aire, which is almost 5 years. Every time we repair it, the traffic comes and pushes the asphalt out and shoves it off to the side. When I first came, we just did a straight patch. We didn't do any base preparation. Still having the issues, so then got together with staff. What can we do? We started putting in a rock base. We're still having those same issues where the heavy trucks are coming down 53rd Street and shoving that asphalt off to the side. Part of the issue is just the makeup of the street. There's nothing to confine that asphalt on the edge of the road, so it just gets pushed aside, especially during the hotter. It's going to get worse during the heat of the summer. When we get the hot weather, it liquefies the asphalt and pushes it away. That road really needs to be replaced. I would really encourage council to start thinking about that. But as a short-term fix, we need to do something. I would really encourage us to try this concrete base. You know, for the difference in price, I really think it's worth giving it a shot, because we've come through some of these areas several times, and for that difference in price, we're going to be saving money if it works. I've never tried it before. This is something that PP&J suggested after looking at the road and seeing the problems that we're having. Wichita has done the concrete base before and had great success with it, so I'm very hopeful that it will work for us. We've got to do something over there. So I would encourage us to try the concrete base option.
I appreciate that. I was going to say, you know, when we're talking $500,000 budgeted towards streets and $3,200 to try something new that's worked in other areas, I appreciate that explanation, and that would be my preference, I think, here.
So the question I have is on the Rock Road and Central Park Avenue. I assume that's the cutaways there where they make the right turns, and you take a dip every time you make that right turn from Central Park to Rock Road. Am I right about that? Is that what we're looking at here?
It will include that area as well as the rest of the joint between Rock Road and Central Park. We're getting those same potholes that we were over on the Elk Creek Drive, Old Mill Street. So
okay.
It's taking care of that whole area.
In the case of the Elk Creek area, I remember you said that we needed to go with the concrete because you kept trying to patch it with asphalt and it kept failing after multiple attempts. Are we going to see the same problem here on Rock Road and Central with just an asphalt repair?
That's actually scheduled to go back in as concrete.
Oh, is it?
Yes.
Okay.
It's the other two that we were looking at, the concrete base with the asphalt on top.
Okay, all right. Well, with that information, then I would make a motion, Mr. Mayor, to accept the quote from PB&J at the cost of $22,650 for street repairs on certain roads in Bel Aire, and authorize the mayor to sign.
Second.
First and second, any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. And workshops tomorrow?
Not quite. The slurry seal will start in approximately October. They're pretty
Wonderful.
booked up. I would imagine PP&J will start fairly soon, within the next month, and the mower obviously will get going as soon as we can.
Fantastic. Appreciate you being here. Appreciate you bringing these bids and this information to us.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, item F is wireless communication directive. There's a lot of changes that have occurred within Kansas and with the federal government relating to wireless communications. Our city attorney is recommending the Planning Commission review and make proposed changes to our city code specific to this topic. In addition, hiring a consultant with expertise in such regulations to help formulate these changes that are needed. And again, this is something we discussed at our workshop at length and heard about the different options for the consultants, and certainly would agree as the community, as we continue to grow, and we're in the 21st century now, we need to act like it, and having our codes up to date or with all these changes and wireless in the future and all that. So do appreciate this being brought to our attention.
Mr. Mayor.
Mr. Mayor, a question I had, if I remember right, in the workshop, we had a quote for the consultant of $2,000. And I just wondered if we should put that in this motion to hire a consultant that cost of no more than $2,000.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any reason why we wouldn't. I mean, that's the one that's implied here, but yeah, I understand.
Mr. Mayor.
Okay.
I might just comment that if we are going to put an amount in there, I think it'd be worthwhile to provide a little bit of wiggle room on that, because estimates are just estimates, and for what we're doing here, I think we want to make sure we get it right. And if it needs to cost $3,000 or $4,000 for the consultant as opposed to $2,000, and the staff feels that's appropriate, I'd be in favor of doing that and allowing a little bit of leeway there.
I think that's a good point. I know all of us, I don't want to speak for it, but here we're kind of a little shocked that it was, we expected it to be a little bit higher in the truth, so.
So maybe a motion to not to exceed, but I'm not going to say what that amount should be, but I understand what Councilmember Smith says. I appreciate that. So I just need to determine what the number is.
I think it's to be determined here, so.
I'd say not over $5,000.
That's what I was thinking.
Okay. Would you like to make that motion?
I thought he was going to.
We're suggesting for his motion, right?
I'll take it. I'll accept a motion at this point.
Go ahead, Jeff.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve a directive to the Bel Aire Planning Commission to review Ordinance 645 related to the regulation of wireless telecommunications facilities in Bel Aire, with the understanding that Planning Commission is authorized to work with staff and employ a consultant at no more than $5,000 cost to assist in the review of development of proposed changes to the ordinance, with the goal of preserving local aesthetics while encouraging an active market, and return such recommendation to the governing body no later than March 2020.
Second.
First and 2 seconds. Okay.
That's okay. Go ahead.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay. I guess my only recommendation would be, obviously, we just put the amount now in a public meeting, would be to hire the consultant before he sees we can go up to 5,000.
Well,
But certainly have that availability there. Alrighty. Item G is the resolution considering the 2019 salary schedule. Under city codes, the salary schedule is adopted to set the salary ranges and salaries for every single position. The schedule was last updated in 2017, so we've made a few changes to it, and is now available, but now ready for council's approval.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I reviewed this salary schedule. I imagine all council members have, and my only concern on it is that it does give the council members and mayor doubles our pay for members of the council and mayor. I fully support paying our staff a competitive wage for the work that they do. I know they do an awesome job, And but I am concerned about this other portion of this because as a public servant, I do not consider compensation the issue for us, and that's a concern to me. So, how the council members feel about that, but if I were to make a motion on this, I would make a motion to accept it without the salary increase for the council members and mayor.
Mr. Mayor, I share in Councilmember Benaj's sentiment, more so for the council member's salary. I do look at this position that I'm sitting in and the rest of us are sitting in really more as a public service seat rather than a compensated seat. And so I'm really not in favor of increasing the compensation for the council members just because I really think that that's more of a public service, and the people that will run for this in the future and sit in these seats aren't going to be doing it for the compensation, and so that's probably unnecessary.
I know we've talked about this considerably, and we had it at our last workshop, or asked if we were okay with putting this forward for tonight's meeting, so that's why it's here tonight. And just would remind, if this were to be approved, that none of us, me included, are obligated to take one penny. And we can have that conversation with our CFO here for the city. So every single one of us, if we wanted to do this for future, whatever, every single one of us, none of us are inclined to accept it. But
They could all donate it.
yes. Want to make a motion, or?
That they donate it?
No, I don't think you can tell people what to do with their money, but yeah, would entertain a motion on the 2019 salary schedule.
Mr. Mayor, I have a question for our city attorney regarding, I guess, procedure on this. Is that something that we need to potentially talk about in executive session for attorney-client privilege, or I'm not sure what we're able to talk
It's
about?
always better to request an executive session for attorney-client, and then if it doesn't fall within the scope of what we need to have an executive session, it can come back. So I would recommend requesting a motion for an executive session for attorney-client privilege. It's about 15 minutes.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I motion that we go into executive session for the sole purpose of discussing the subject of attorney-client privilege with, pursuant to KSA 754319, and invite the city attorney to join the council for a period of 15 minutes. And that would reopen the meeting reopen the meeting in the chambers at 7:53.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign.
Aye.
You're in executive session. Council,
Last time.
Council just had executive session. No binding action was taken. I will go ahead and call the meeting back to order. And with that, I'm going to get us back onto the agenda, which is item G, consideration of a resolution considering the 2019 salary schedule for the city of Bel Aire.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I make a motion to approve the resolution concerning the 2019 salary schedule for the city of Bel Aire, Kansas, as presented.
Second.
There's a first and a second. Are there any other questions or comments?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make some comments. I just wanted to just address the concerns that Council members Benaj and Smith brought up regarding the 2019 pay scale. And I just wanted to let everybody at home know, so this council was asked to review the city manager, the city attorney. We went through those items already, and then we also reviewed compensation for the mayor and the council members. And the mayor has expressed already how none of us up here want to be discussing, talking about your own compensation when you're in this position is awkward and a little, it's awkward and a little, there's, a little bit of pressure on talking about that thing, but I just wanted to point out one of the things that we asked the city to look at was the compensation that we know of neighboring cities and cities that are similar in our size in our region for their mayor and their council members. And with the cities that we looked at, we were low. We were below the average. And I think as time goes on, there will be a time when either this council or the mayor may want to realize that we're still at the low end on compensation in comparison for the size city we are and the role that we have here. And I think if we don't do incremental increases over time, some council will have a lot of pressure on them because they're going to if they want to increase it to bring it to the average of what we looked at in terms of the other cities, they might have to bring it up way more than what we're doing here. So it's basically I intend to vote in favor of this pay scale adjustment because it brings the mayor up and the council members up to similar to what other cities are compensating their council members and their mayors with, and
Yet still below.
Yet still below the average. So I just want to make sure that everyone is clear that that was what we were talking. What we have looked at and discussed about this issue. So that's all I have to say as far as comments. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Appreciate that. Are there any other questions or comments? Hearing none, we do have a first and second. I'll call for the vote. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
Motion passes 3-2. Okay, discussion and future issues. Councilmember Martine opened the meeting by asking that we discuss July 5th on the office should be open or not. The city offices are closed Thursday, and I'm sorry, wasn't prepared to talk about. I know it was brought up in an email to us that City Hall is open July 4th, even though it's July 5th. Excuse me, we're closed July 4th, and of course our police department is still working. So we do still have city employees on the clock working on paid holidays, and we take care of that in different ways, but. On Fridays right now, our City Hall is open until 1:30. We have limited
1
hours.
o'clock.
It's 1:30 actually. Yeah, we staggered that. So,
Huh?
it is 1:30, right?
No, it's 1.
That was at 1 o'clock? Why was I thinking it was 1:30?
You're thinking of it.
I got you guys working 30 more minutes, by golly. Okay, I stand corrected.
That's all right.
None of us are. Absolutely, I stand corrected on that. Forgive me. So we do normally close at 1 o'clock. Our employees still work 40 hours with opening up earlier during the rest of the week. So do you guys want us to have our normal hours? Do we open at 7:30?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That's why I was thinking 30. Okay. I knew there was a...
Mr. Mayor.
Yes.
Okay. My feeling on it is, being July 4th is on Thursday, why are we having employees come in and work 4.5 hours when they could have, if they want to go out of town or visit with relatives over the weekend, they would have the 4.5 hours. As working before at City Hall, I will guarantee you nobody will come in this office on July 5th, maybe 2 people, and they're lost. But for 4.5 hours, when they work so diligently for us during the week from 7:30 to 5:30 all day long, I mean, I've been in City Hall several times, and these girls and gentlemen are busy. They're not dilly-dallying around or taking lunch away from their desk. I said, why are you eating at your desk? Well, I got this to do and this to do, and I want to get it done. Well, that's a credit to the city that they're dedicated employees. So I really feel that we should be closed July 4th and the 5th. That's all.
Mr. Mayor, I do have a question as far as, I guess, for hourly employees. Are we talking about this being basically unpaid leave and them having a choice? I mean, I know, some people do rely on having a certain amount of hours for a certain amount of pay. So how is that kind of figured into this?
That's a great question. Yeah, logistically, I guess, City Manager, how would we handle, would employees need to take vacation or?
Well, that would be your decision. If you just close city offices.
You just close it, you get paid.
Then it would be with pay.
So we need to make sure it's done for all employees.
Yeah. So we would have to. We'd have to make sure that. There'd be some logistics in, because City Hall staff works from 7:30 to 1, but police officers are 8 hours and things like that. So we'd have to figure out how we would.
So what would that do if we have rec center employees who still need to work on the 5th, or police officers that need to work on the 5th? Is that going to?
Yeah, so probably.
Carry it just like Christmas, like you do the holidays, any other holiday, Thanksgiving and Christmas. They work during the holidays, but the chief or Brian from the rec center gives them different days off, or however they work it. I'm not real sure on that, but that way they would all still get the same time off, except for the police and the rec center.
Yeah, so that's what we would do, is like the rec center would stay open their normal hours. I think they're open anyway, 8 to 5. It's just City Hall, I believe. So we'd have to figure out, okay, if City Hall closed and the City Hall staff were off 3.5 hours or 4.5 hours, whatever that equaled to, then everybody else would get an additional 4.5 hours that they could take at their own discretion.
So we're basically be giving additional vacation time in a way?
You'd close the City Hall, so it wouldn't be open, but then those that would have to work, like police or rec that are open, they would just get an additional 4.5 to equal what City Hall got.
If you're open from 7:30 to 1 on Fridays, that's 5.5 hours.
5.5, excuse me.
I don't know if you're taking a lunchtime in there in that time. Is there a lunchtime in there?
No.
No?
So it'd be 5.5
hours.
Right.
We'll tell you, I like the idea, especially our employees, and I echo what Councilmember Martin says. I've been up here at 6:30, 7, 8 o'clock at night. There's people here doing stuff. At the same time, I hate closing and taking away from our citizens. That's
Advertise it ahead of time.
well, I'm trying to weigh. We want to be good stewards here, and we have our citizens that because if we do close the 5th, I'm playing devil's advocate here. I'm not saying I'm for or against this, but and someone has an issue after hours July 3rd. I mean, you're talking it's going to be 5 days before they can come in and talk to someone. I don't know.
They can call maintenance, the emergency number.
Yeah. So, and we do have something like that set up if we were to do
Yes.
something right.
So
Okay.
weekends and holidays and stuff, we have emergency numbers.
So, okay. I know we have done this around Christmas and Thanksgiving as well, and especially with the falling on Thursday. And so at this point, this was added to our agenda to discuss it. I guess we would need to, if we're going to make a decision, I would need to entertain a motion tonight to one way or another. Or any other council members have anything else they'd like to say on this issue?
Mr. Mayor,
Yeah.
just a question for the city manager. What type of traffic might you expect on July 5th if the city were to remain open?
And that's an internal discussion we were having. Typically on any Friday, it's slow. Typically Fridays are slow. And so with the holiday, we're going to be short-staffed. I mean, there's going to be people taking off the 5.5 hours so that they get a 4-day weekend. So we'll have a skeleton crew here. And so the assumption would be that not only us, but other people that, are probably going to take Friday off as well to have a 4-day weekend. So that would probably limit the traffic even more, especially since it's already closed, or since a lot of people are already off. So that's kind of why internally we were talking about, okay, who are we going to have work? And is there really going to be anybody coming in on a Friday since they're typically slow anyway?
Mr. Mayor, I kind of think it would be appropriate to close City Hall on the 5th, so long as we can advertise that on social media well in advance and through all the avenues that we have possible to make sure people are informed about that and can plan appropriately.
Is that a motion?
Is that a motion? That is a good question.
Mr. Mayor, I move to make July 5th a paid holiday for the city of Bel Aire and to close City Hall.
Second.
First and second, any other questions or comments? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. All right, and as I mentioned earlier, that concludes our regularly scheduled agenda items here, but would like to have an executive session for a period of, it's written down here for 20 minutes, but we can,
You better go 30.
Mr. Mayor,
yes.
I move to go into executive session for the sole purpose of discussing the subject of consultation with city attorney regarding enforcement proceedings pursuant to KSA 754319, exception for attorney-client privilege. Invite the city manager and city attorney. The meeting will be for 30 minutes.
Perfect.
30 minutes, and the open meeting will resume in city council chambers at
8:36.
8:36.
Second.
We have first and second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are in executive session. If Jim freezes again, we'll call him.
Hopefully I'll stay connected. All right?
Yeah.
Just a weak spot, I think.
Oh my gosh. All right, here, you're back in chambers now.
Super, that looks good.
Okay.
You should sing another one.
Thank you, sir.
Hey, council just had an executive session. No binding action was taken. I'm going to go ahead and call the meeting back to order. Is there any other business to come before council this evening?
He said something.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
one issue, workshop scheduled for July 9th, and I
No.
understand that it's the same day that Jackie is having her award dinner that evening, so I think we need to consider moving the workshop. And July 10th works for me, but maybe we can discuss this at the next meeting, but I just thought I'd better bring it up so that we are aware of it, we have conflict there.
Yeah, I do appreciate it, and yeah, it's something we definitely want to talk about at the next meeting. So yeah, be
Yeah.
thinking about what works. And those of you who know, our city attorney has been named a 40 under 40. So we're very proud of her and look forward to that banquet. Okay. Any other business come before council this evening?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I move to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. We are adjourned.
Good day.
All righty, take care.